welcome, friends, to my Best Healer podcast. This is Dr. Mugazi. I am your host, and today with me is Nkana. He is fantastic guy. You can't believe it. He's a doctor in law, and he has a master in business administrations, bachelor degree in business administrations and public relations. He is the founder of Rocky Mountain Physician Agency. Tell us more about that, Ethan. Good morning. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic, Dr. Magazi. I genuinely appreciate the invitation to be here to chat with you. I would say, just in really simple terms, Rocky Mountain Physician Agency is a sports management agency, except that my clients are physicians like yourself, as opposed to professional athletes.
Okay. Tell me about the history behind the Rocky Mountain Physicians Agency. Before we go there, I just want to tell the listeners, the watchers, whoever listen to this podcast, the main goal here is to inspire you guys, okay? And I have this commitment to bring the inspiration wherever that inspiration can be. I believe that each and every individual have a story, have something to say to inspire others, to inspire the world, move it, surprise it, take it to the next level, one person at a time. And that's why Ethan is here today. So my dear friend, go ahead. Tell us the story, the whole story, where this Rocky Mountain Physician Agency came from.
Yeah, thank you so much. So first and foremost, Dr. Magazi, I want to amplify what you just said. There are people that I looked to through my own journey for that same inspiration. So I'm so grateful that there are people out there like you who are putting yourselves out there to bring these stories to the forefront. So first and foremost, thank you for what you're doing to inspire people like myself. But just to give you a little bit of background, Rocky Mountain Physician Agency really came out of the darkest point in my career, if I'm being honest about it.
Okay.
I had been working, so you read a little bit about my background. I'm a lawyer by training, have my MBA. That was intentional in the respect that I was building towards becoming a hospital CEO. That was my career passion. That was really what my career goal was. And about a year and a half ago, I had been working in a health system here in Colorado, progressively growing through different leadership roles and operations and strategy and finance. I did some physician contracting as well. And I got the call, you don't want to get on a Friday afternoon. And that call was to say, hey, in 6 days, we will no longer need your services.
No
And
way.
yeah, so Dr. Magazi, anyone who's been through that, who's listening, who's watching, knows that that's devastating.
That's hard,
That's
yes.
devastating. So for someone like myself, I feel as though it was doubly so because I had my ego and my entire identity wrapped up in wanting to be a hospital CEO. And so when I lost my job, it felt as though, well, who am I now? Who am I without the title and without the salary? And I felt as though I was disoriented and frankly quite lost. So I was really fortunate. I have a better half who is a much smarter person than I am. And she, during the week between getting the news from HR and my last day, she bought me a massage at a local, it was a Massage Envy or some massage chain. And I was sitting in the lobby waiting for my turn, and there was a magazine, Dr. Magazi, on the waiting room table, and on the cover it said Denver's top docs. And I thought, I wonder how much money those doctors make. And then I thought, well, I wonder if they know how much money they should make. Right. And if they don't know, who advocates for them to get what they should make? And immediately this thought process started to percolate a little bit. And it was this idea that physicians are not that different from professional athletes in the respect that you all go through this extremely rigorous training, then a very small few of you finish it. And then you have these skills that are of this highly complex, of being scientists, of being doctors of medicine. But yet all along the way, no one's taught physicians, what are you worth? How should you negotiate for your salary, or any of the many business things that you need to know when you're running your own business as a doctor? And
Mm.
so I called my mom immediately after the massage, and I said, my mom was a physician as well, and I
Oh,
said,
wow.
Mom, I said, who negotiates your deals with you for your salary?
Yeah.
And she said, Ethan, I do that on my own. And Dr. Mugazi, what that indicated to me was doctors are expected to be experts at everything. But yet, when they go to negotiate their salaries, they're left out in the cold. There's nobody there to say, Dr. Mugazi, here's what you're worth based on your experience, based on your credentials, based on your expertise. There's nobody advising you on what you're worth, and consequently, physicians are left to fend for themselves. And the consequence of that is one, a really wide gap in physician salaries, which means that it's not the best doctors that are getting paid the most, it's the best negotiators that are getting paid the most. And secondarily, it opens the door for systemic inequities. One of the most obvious is women physicians who are employed being paid 22% less than their male counterparts. So
Wow.
things like that are why physicians, after all that you all have gone through to serve the community, it's the least that you all deserve to be able to make a living that is worthwhile.
That is fantastic. Tell me about your first time you start to open the Rocky Mountain Physicians Agency, and now what? Did anybody call you? How long it took you to do that? I know to become an entrepreneur and just move out of this paycheck kind of pattern. It's kind of a challenge, right? It's not an easy thing. I understand that.
Yeah,
So tell me about that.
yeah. I'll tell you, if I had started the business and waited for the phone to ring, I would still be waiting. As you know, that's not quite how it works, right? And
No.
so, my experience really was I was working for a Fortune 500 at the time. So after my layoff, I had the idea and I started to jot down some thoughts. It was basically me throwing everything that was in my head onto a literal piece of paper and pencil to start to flesh out some of these ideas because it doesn't physician agency doesn't exist before a Rocky Mountain Physician Agency. And so at the time, my immediate need was what you just alluded to. I needed a paycheck. So I got a job at a Fortune 500 that's based here in Denver, and it gave me the opportunity to work full time during the day and then at night really focus on my passion. So I would say for about 9 months to a year, I was working full time, meaning full time in the day and then RMPA at night. And keeping in mind, building RMPA is not like becoming a franchise owner where all of the pieces are already fabricated for you and all you have to do is walk in and turn the lights on, right? This was much different in the respect that I'm building this platform that really doesn't exist right now.
Mhm.
And so my job is not just solving the problem of physician advocacy, it's also helping evangelize about why physicians deserve an advocate, right?
Mm.
And so I use that sports analogy because I think it's an apt one that you all have gone through so much, and just to be left out in the cold when you finish, that's where I step in to help you all negotiate. So really, Dr. Mugazi, a big part of my job the first year has been evangelizing, spreading the words, talking about the inequity in physician salaries and compensation.
That's fantastic. And I'm assuming now the business is rocking and rolling, or how things are going with you now.
Yeah, it's going fantastic, and I think this is a testament to that, right? I get to
Good.
talk to fantastic people like you. So the business is going amazing. I
Good.
had an opportunity just yesterday to present to the physician residents in training at the Wright State University School of Medicine. It's the Boonshoff School of Medicine, but the family medicine residents, I did a presentation for them on how to be successful in your first contract.
Right.
And I talked a lot about the agency of the business, and while that's really important, I also believe that I have a responsibility, Dr. Mugazi, to educate the future doctors.
Mm.
So while I do advocate for doctors who are practicing and represent them as their agent, I also do pro bono work all across the country to help residents understand here's why physician compensation is so important, and here's how you can go out and advocate for yourself to get the value that you deserve. So it's almost as if they were to distill everything I do, put it into a one pager and stick it in their pocket. So that way, when those physicians finish residency, they can go in and advocate for themselves. Because again, I'm not just here for myself to advocate for doctors and get paid to do that, which I do. More importantly, I want to help doctors understand their value and eventually get to a point where they don't need someone like me. They can advocate for themselves adequately.
See, this is exactly the main goal here, is to show the inspiration that uh, being losing your job in such hard time during the pandemic did not stop you. In fact, inspired you to do something that you never thought actually is even possible, right? So what is your advice for people that who is going through the same uh, probably difficulty, Ethan? There's a lot of people right now that they lost their jobs. They kind of swimming in this big ocean of nothing, and they have no idea where to go, what kind of directions, what kind of advice you give them.
And that is such a great point, Dr. Magazi. And what I would say, if I can just share a short story,
Please, yes.
first, my experience with getting laid off was uh, monumental for me. And before that happened, I frankly had a very decent upbringing. We didn't have a lot of concerns growing up. My mom's a physician, my dad's a professor, and I always wondered who I would be in adversity. I
Mm.
wondered who I would be when something happened to me that knocked me down.
Mm.
And getting let go from a job was really that first real kick in the pants of life getting taken a whack at me. So I was really proud of being able to go through something like that and say I survived it, right? And when
Mm.
you're in it, it feels as though it's the only thing in the whole world. But now when I look back, I'm so proud to say that through all of that, I now have this thing that I've built that feels as though I finally found my purpose. And the reason I share that, Dr. Mugazi, is because I could not be here if it wasn't for that.
Right.
And I think we so often, I'm sure you have experiences in your own life that you could recite where we
Absolutely.
think, yeah, we think back about things that I wish I didn't have to go through that. But what we don't appreciate is you had to go through that to get here.
Yes, I agree, 100%, 100%. It's hard for the reptile brain at the moment of struggle to think logic, to think human, to think,
Yeah.
oh wow, what I want to do now. No, it's very difficult. It's very challenging as well. And believe it or not, the moment that you achieved all of that success, I call it the moment of lucidity. So it's the
Mm,
moment of clarity, like everything just suddenly opened up.
yes.
Like, what?
Yes. That's perfect. I'm going to use that. That is perfect.
Right, right. And I think you just a testimony of that. You showed that, well, you have to go through these difficulties to show that wonderful things that the world can take, benefits out of it. So tell me more about the future of Rocky Mountain Physician Agency.
Yeah, great question. So the vision I have for Rocky Mountain Physician Agency is that we will have a national footprint supporting physicians and advocating for physicians to get the value that they deserve. So the way I see this, there's the pandemic has highlighted a number of vulnerabilities, I think, in our economy.
Hmm.
And I think one of the things that it has exposed is the opportunity for us to be able to connect virtually with anybody at any time.
Right.
And, initially when I thought about this business, well, I'm based in Colorado, so that's where my focus will be. But the reality is, there's no reason that a boundary means anything to me or restrict my ability to practice. I'm not practicing law, so I don't have a licensure to necessarily be concerned about, and I'm not holding myself out as a lawyer. So I work with, just like I said yesterday, I was presenting to a group in Ohio. In January, it was another group here in Colorado, and looking to continue to expand. So my view, Dr. Magazi, is that physicians everywhere would have access to advocacy and support like that of Rocky Mountain Physician Agency.
So, to make this clear to the doctors and physicians out there, where the Rocky Mountain Physician Agency rule come in play? At the beginning of the process, through the process, after the process, where exactly you think that the most important part for you?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I think sometimes doctors think that they have to be willing to move states or cities to work with me, and that's not the case.
Okay.
My goal is for you to stay right where you are and be compensated the way you deserve to be compensated right there without having to make a move. So I would say there's a couple of entry points where I work with doctors. The first is the doctors who are coming out of residency. So for example, I just brought on a neurosurgeon client who has a subspecialization in endovascular neurosurgery. And he's looking at two markets. He's looking at the market here in Colorado as well as one in the Pacific Northwest. And so for him, my job will start at the very front, which is finding him his first deal. And the way the agency works is totally depending upon the doctor. So I have some doctors who say, Ethan, I hate business, I hate numbers, I want you to take care of everything.
Okay.
And fortunate for them, I love that stuff. So I am happy to take all of that on. And then there's some doctors who say, Ethan, I would prefer that we tag team this, right? I want to be involved in all of these discussions just because it's my preference or my personality. And that's fine as well. One of the things that's just really important for our doctors to know is that my interests are only aligned with yours. So for example, and I'll just give you the second entry point in just a moment. But for example, if I bring a doctor a contract for $250 and a contract for $300,000, and the doctor says I want to go with the one for $250, even though Rocky Mountain makes more if I get you paid more, we're going with the $250 because that's the best fit for you, right? It's all about what my doctors prefer.
I see.
And so the second entry point, Dr. Mogazi, is working with practicing physicians. So physicians who say one of a couple of things. Usually it's, hey, I'm just curious if I'm getting what I deserve in my salary. Could you take a look at it for me? Happy to do that. And we do a 15-minute assessment to make sure you're where you should be. The other thing that happens is some doctors say, actually, I'll tell you a real story. So I had a conversation just last week with a spine surgeon, and I had actually been talking about this spine surgeon for 6 months before I had even heard of him or met him because I knew his problem that was impacting him. So he called me and he said, Ethan, I would love to talk to you about the deal that I have. I don't think it's a very good one. And I said, well, what makes you think it's not a good deal? And he said, well, during COVID-19, when elective procedures were being postponed at hospitals, what that meant was my doctor, who was on an all productivity contract, wasn't getting a paycheck. And so when you think about physicians in terms of a worker, so a worker who has no ability to earn an income, puts them at a substantial disadvantage to support their livelihood and their family.
Right.
And so the doctor unknowingly, so at first that deal sounds amazing, right? Because if you work really hard, you get paid really well. And that's phenomenal for a lot of doctors. But what it doesn't account for is things that are outside of your control, like a global pandemic that shuts down the work that you're able to do and your ability to earn a living. So it's things like that that just illuminate the challenges that face physicians that we may never even hear about. It was a friend of ours that had gotten us connected, but he would have had to suffer in silence if it wasn't for him being able to say, hey, this is what I'm going through. And yeah, he's a surgeon and he makes a ton of money. That's fine, but that doesn't mean that he deserves to lose his income for things that are outside of his control.
Yes, no, I agree 100%. So I know that we can talk about a lot of things probably for days, but I can see the clock is already ticking and the time is coming to share a message or perhaps a note or maybe a word that you want to say to the doctors out there, the physicians, that they will get a lot of help by your agency? What is that you want to say to them?
Yeah, Dr. Magazi, the thing that I would say to doctors is there's no such thing as an average doctor. Every single doctor is unique, brings a combination of skills, compassion, empathy, intellect. And I remember I have a client who's a specialist. And in one of our first meetings, I said, well, tell me what your professional goals are. And he said, well, he's looking at his shoes. I'm just a average doctor. And I said, not in front of me. Don't ever talk about yourself that way in front of me. And that's when doctors are talking kindly about themselves. That's when doctors are being gentle. I hear doctors all of the time say, I feel dismissed. I feel disposable. And that breaks my heart because that was my mom on that side of the table, right? So if these doctors feel like that, it's likely my mom felt like that as well.
Right.
And so my mission and my advice to these doctors, my counsel would be, do not think of yourself as just an average doctor. You put in the time, you put in the effort, you deserve better.
Right.
And doctors deserve advocacy and they deserve better for themselves. And that's the only reason Rocky Mountain Physician Agency is here.
Hey, physicians, doctors, here you have it, the Rocky Mountain Physician Agency. Ethan Nkana with me today, and he's giving you this opportunity to reach out to him. How can they reach out to you, Ethan?
Yeah, there's a couple of ways. So I would say first and foremost the website, which is www.rmpa. That's Robert Mary Paul Adam.co. There's also an Instagram page for Rocky Mountain, which is the @ Physician Agency, all one word, and you'll find us there. And then I would say, just call me. Dr. Magazi, if you're comfortable posting my phone number or email, call me, text me, email me. I'm here to help. I'm not holding myself out as a lawyer, so I'm not going to punch the time clock as soon as you call me. I'm here to support doctors, so please reach out and let me know how I can support you.
That is fantastic message. Thank you so much for being here today with us at My Best Healer podcast. I truly appreciate it. I think it's an inspiration for everybody out there, and for the physicians, it's a great opportunity. So thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Magazi. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you so much.
All right. Talk to you soon.